Okay, welcome to everyone watching this video and also anyone watching the recording into the future. I'm joined by Emire. Emire has joined Quality Insight back in, I think it was January, Emire, that you joined our team.
Yeah, that's right.
Emire has come to us and really I suppose, a specialist around how do we build revenue, how do we help providers increase their occupancy, and Emire's got a lot of experience around that. So, Emire, do you want to just give a really quick intro to yourself to everyone out there?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Emire, as Brad said. I've been in aged care for 12 years. I started off working in the care home as reception and worked my way, I guess, through different roles. I've done business development roles, sales manager roles, and my most recent roles have been as head of business development and also national admissions manager. So lots of experience in aged care and understanding occupancy growth and revenue.
Yeah, and then like me, Emire, you've been through the whole COVID piece and looked at homes that pre-COVID were going okay, post-COVID struggled. So, yeah, we've got some insights into how we can help grow occupancy. So the first thing, we'll sort of walk through is the average annual gross dollar amount that you can expect out of residents. If a provider's coming in today, what is the average resident worth, Emire, to providers?
Yeah, I'm going to say, let's just say, call it $120,000 a year, really. That's the kind of average worth of a resident to a provider.
Yeah, and we're not trying to cheapen the value of the resident. They're very special to us and all that. Yeah. But from a commercial sense, if a provider looks at what lost occupancy days can mean, I mean, we're generally talking between $300 to $400 a day of a vacant bed, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. And if you say you've got 10 vacant beds in a care home, you multiply that $300 to $400 a day by the 10 vacant beds times the 30 days on average per month, you're talking $100,000 a month.
Yeah, which is unsustainable for most businesses. Yeah. So when we talk to the provider about how do we build those occupancy strategies, we're not just looking for a quick grab of occupancy, are we? We're really trying to piece a much more sustainable funnel of incoming leads and then admissions.
Absolutely. And it's about that, I guess, the immediate fix. What's a short-term solution that will provide an immediate fix? And the immediate fix is an admission, instant admission. But then how do you also build that future pipeline of residents coming through to your care home? Because it's not just what's happening today, what will happen next week and next month. It's you have to look at the entire year and how you're building that pipeline.
Yeah. So one thing you've got there is when we're looking at that whole revenue picture, there's actually little buckets of revenue that you need to consider in your resident profile. We'll just walk through these quite quickly. So the first one's a basic daily fee. That's standard across all providers. It is a fee that sometimes can be discounted by some providers. Our recommendation on that is you don't do that. It's actually a fee that you should not discount at all now.
Agree. I think I've seen the basic daily fee discounted various times with various providers, and I think it doesn't actually give a point of difference, and it is a revenue stream that then you're losing out on, especially if you're providing the no basic daily fee for the stay of the resident. So it's a lot of money that you're losing out on.
Yeah, and then we've got the accommodation piece. So of course, anyone in a high means category, really advertised room price is relevant to them, but then we've got the supplemented room category. So we've got our moderate means and our low means residents. When you look at accommodation, Emire, and we'll just focus on the high means resident, we've seen some providers really just not lift their pricing for years around that thing. What would your advice be to providers that are considering looking at a potential lift in accommodation?
My advice would be that obviously research is required. So looking at what competitors are doing in the area, and it's like for like competitors, not looking at properties that aren't aligned to your portfolio of properties. But my recommendation is that providers should be increasing their room pricing. And it's not just helping the provider, but it's also helping the resident coming through. So if there's a resident who's currently on their, full aged care pension and your room pricing is lower and they're left with a bucket load of money after paying for their room, they're actually in a difficult situation, so they may not choose your care home because of your room pricing.
Yeah, and we know that the 550K is the ceiling before you're then seeking approval. There are a lot of providers out there that have properties ranging between sort of that 250 to 450 range, and we're not advocating someone puts their price up by $100,000, but even a $15,000 to $20,000 increment, and most homes have a 30% occupancy of their total home that a high means resident. That 15 grand increase can be quite material, considering the MPIR has lifted considerably in the last few months. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed, Brad. Absolutely.
The other bucket that's there, and it's not really in the realm of the admissions team, but it's certainly with the clinical team, is ANAC. It's replaced ACFI now. ANAC has those 13 different classifications, but a home couldn't do all class 13, could it? It's just virtually impossible to have a set class of resident.
No, absolutely not. And that's why I think you need to look at other revenue streams to ensure that you're maximizing your revenue through other streams, including, as we mentioned earlier, room pricing.
Yeah. And I think the sales training that we do, there's a real advantage for anyone who's a clinical manager or even an RN that's aspiring to be a clinical manager. They should jump on this training, because what we do there is we talk about how ANAC fits in that, but we also talk about how it fits into all these pieces of the revenue build. So it's one part of it. It's a very important part of it, but there are other factors as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the last bucket of revenue, we'll talk about this in more depth, is additional services. You've been talking to a lot of providers in the last few weeks about additional services. Some are hesitant. Some are all for it. Some are sort of waiting. What's your advice around additional service space in this industry?
Yeah, so my advice, and it's obviously changed over the years. So for me, I came into aged care and it was all about clubs, extra services, and then became club services. So it has moved away from that. Additional services is very lucrative to aged care providers. And I'm not saying that it's a capped additional service fee. I think providers should be looking at customer choice and giving the consumer, the customer, the resident, the choice to select a range of different services. What that does for the provider is that it doesn't actually cap your maximum additional services fee that you're charging your residents on a daily basis. We've spoken to providers, and we've actually had dealings with providers, Brad, where some residents are paying $9 a day because that's the service that they choose, where others are paying $150 a day. So it should be consumer based, and it should be a resident's choice as to what they choose. There's lots of work to go into that, but I think moving towards the future, it is all about what the customer is choosing and what they would like as their additional services, and I think that's the best selling tool for us as providers to be offering.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of different things we can help the provider with. So not only have we got the knowledge around the additional service programs, but we have a program that can help manage that process as well. Yeah, we do. Res Hub is the program that Brad's talking about, and it's a great I'm going to call it a software program. It's easy to use and it's accessible to residents, their families, and the staff. But yeah, great program for additional services. Yeah, and it's also a relevant platform for anyone who's listening or watching that's a home care provider or a retirement living community as well. The product is actually quite interchangeable across those services. The big one, Emire, we get asked a lot is around occupancy conversion. So they've generated a lead, they've done a heap of work generating that lead, and then they're trying to convert that lead. I mean, what in your mind is the optimal occupancy conversion rate?
Yeah, so I look at conversion. I think there's the inquiry to tour and then the tour to admission. But let's just take the inquiry to admission, because I think it's an easy number right now. For me, most providers are probably converting around that 20 to 22%. And that's just from discussions that I've had over the past couple of months since being at Quality Insight, and past experience as well. So it's a relatively low conversion rate. Whereas my goal when speaking to providers is providing them with the education and training to increase that conversion rate to be sitting between that 30 to 35%. and that's from inquiry to admission.
Yeah. And I think if we look at some of the providers we've worked with out there, they're up as high as 80% conversion where they've got a vacant bed. And I think that's an important distinction, is that if you don't have any vacant beds, your conversion rate's not going to be that high. But if you've got that vacancy, we're looking for that sweet spot between 50 to 80% has been an optimal range where that vacancy exists. Look, the conversion discussion that we hear a lot, we developed a program called Connect the Dots, which is a lead generation and then a lead qualification tool. We're currently sitting at around between 38 to 40% of where we've generated a lead to where a provider has seen an admission, or those people have seen an admission into care. And we think that's quite high, but we think it could be a lot better. But what we're finding from the market is the need is growing, particularly in the home care space. We're seeing a lot of inquiry coming through on that. What are some tips that we could sort of give people around you're getting that lead? What are the top 3 things they should be doing once they receive that lead as an admissions team?
Yeah, for me, top 3 things, follow-up, instant follow-up. So basically you get that lead, whichever way it's generated, it's a phone call, calling back after 24 hours. Every aged care provider is jumping on a lead. For you to maximize your conversion rate, it's that initial contact within 2 hours, I would say. And speaking to a lot of the providers that we're dealing with, Brad, the ones who are doing well with occupancy, they have a 2-hour turnaround time in response to inquiries, and then also a quick turnaround time in response to approval of the support plan. So, clinically, can you actually look after this resident, and booking that tour in? For me, they're the 3 key. Once a customer has actually confirmed a tour booking, that's that step closer to actually them converting to an admission. They're the 3 keys for me. There's a whole other heap of steps that you should be taking as well, but for me, they're the 3 key non-negotiables, and those providers that are actually doing that are seeing the higher occupancy and conversion rates.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the underlying message across all that too, or the underlying skill, is knowledge of the actual product and how to articulate that too. So I think if providers are following those 3 tips Emire was talking about, but then also have knowledgeable teams, your conversion ratio can be as high as you need it to be. And that's also building waiting lists. So we've got some providers that are now building waiting lists that are quite considerable. We've got some providers that are able to start lifting their pricing or installing solid additional service programs, which can increase their revenue opportunities. So it can be done. It's not something that's impossible. Emire,
absolutely not. And
keep going. Yep.
Go. No, I was just going to say absolutely not. It sounds simple, doesn't it?
It is, and it's hard work. Like, we get that, and we know that some homes have a big mountain to climb. Some homes aren't the prettiest, but we do, in talking to a lot of the general public that we do between our team, Emire and myself, most people don't like the shiny new, and some people are quite comfortable in cozy. No one likes dirty homes. No one understands poor attitude at the front counter, or people who want to fob off questions. They don't get that. So it's really important that those basic customer service principles are used.
And I think I just actually want to talk about an actual aged care home that I used to work with many years ago. It was shared accommodation. There was no bathrooms within the rooms. And the general manager at the time, as soon as you walked through that door, you could feel that she was just so passionate about her home, and it didn't have any of the bells and whistles. And she had it full all the time. Yes, she took on very high care residents, so it was, higher turnover essentially. But because of her reputation and because of how much she loved what she was doing, that home was full all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's the secret, having that passion, having the team behind you as well, which is really important.
Yeah.
Emire, great to talk to you on recording. This is Emire's first time on the recording. She's done really well. We will do a lot more of these little bits of information, but just to anyone watching here that have watched the whole lot, thank you very much for that. But we would really appreciate your comments, your feedback, any stories that you want to share. As a community or as a team of peers, I think it's really important for us to be able to share those learnings across the industry, because that's the only way we're going to improve. If we keep working and operating within silos, this industry will never grow. So yeah, really happy to hear from anybody. You can reach out directly to either Emire or myself, and those links will be in our LinkedIn posts and other platforms that we post this on. Emire, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Anything
Brad.
final to say?
No, just yeah, looking forward to helping as many providers as we can.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks everyone for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.